right, here we are with the Connections Cowl, and I'm going to show you how to do, or at least how I do, a two-color long tail cast on. And I've got my two colors of yarn here that I'm going to be using for the cowl, and I have the needles that I'm going to be using here. And I like to cast on with a especially when I'm using a lightweight fingering yarn with a needle one size larger than the needle I plan to knit with, because it'll just keep those stitches from becoming too tight over the course of the cast on, especially when you're casting on mini stitches, which for the fingering weight yarn we're going to cast on 181 stitches. So you put the two tails together and you make a little slip knot. You don't need to leave a very long tail on that slip knot, but you will be weaving those ends in when we're done. And then just slip the slip knot onto the needle and kind of tighten it up. And then in this case, I'm going to use the light colored yarn as the dominant color in the cowl, which means I will use the dark blue as the background, and the background yarn I will have over my thumb, and the dominant yarn I'll have over my finger, and this will be the yarn that makes the stitches on the needle, while this yarn will be in a line along the base of those stitches, and I'll show you what that looks like. And this is the motion I do when I do a long tail cast on. If you do it differently, you can see how I do it and adjust your own style for the two colors. So I'm going to go under, over, and tighten it up a little bit. Under, over, tighten. It's just a regular long tail cast on, except using two different yarns and not having very much of a long tail. And I'm going to do that, in this case, 181 times. And I don't count this slip knot as one of those stitches. So I'm going to cast on actually 181 stitches, not counting the slip knot. And you can see the pattern that makes there with the background yarn, darker yarn forming the base of the stitches, the dominant yarn, the lighter yarn in this case forming the stitches over the needle. And I'm going to be consistent in that until I've got them all cast on. Okay, when you have all your stitches cast on, you want to make sure that they're all straight, so that you don't have a twist in the stitches when you join. And I'm just straightening them up right now. And it's especially easy to see that you have your needles straight when you're using two colors like this, because you'll have that nice blue, dark blue line around the base of the stitches. And if you just get it all on the inside of the needles, you can be assured that you have them all straight with no twists in your stitches. And now we're ready to join those. And you can see I still have the slip knot here on my needle where I started. And what I'm going to do is just slip that slip knot off the needle, and I'm going to leave it tied. Right now, I'm not going to undo those yarns and free them up, because it makes this step a little simpler when I just slip this stitch off onto my right hand needle, and then I'm going to pull this stitch, the last one I cast off, over it just to make a secure join. And now I will tighten those up a little bit by pulling on the tails. And it doesn't matter whether you untie, kind of slip that slip knot out now or not. You can do, but until you get that stitch slipped over it, it's helpful to leave the slip knot in. Now I can just put my beginning of round marker on and begin knitting. and no knots in my cast on chain. And that's how I do the 2-color long tail cast on.